Welcome to Bible Quiz Tube, Bible Trivia fans. Test your knowledge with today's Old Testament Bible quiz. 25 questions, 5 seconds each, 1 point per correct answer. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss our daily Bible quizzes. Share your score in the comments. Let the quiz begin. Question 1. Which tribe was chosen to replace the firstborn as priests in the book of Joshua? Test your knowledge. A. Levi. B. Judah. C. Benjamin. D. Dan. The correct answer is A. Levi. The explanation. Joshua chapter 18 verse 7 clarifies that the tribe of Levi did not receive a territorial land inheritance, as the priesthood of the Lord is their inheritance. This confirmed God's earlier covenant, Numbers chapter 3 verse 12, where the Levites were taken in place of the firstborn of all Israel to serve the tabernacle. They were distributed in 48 cities among the other tribes, ensuring their priestly service was nationwide. Question 2. What is the prevailing theme in Amos? A. God's grace. B. Spiritual discipline. C. Kingdom building. D. Social justice. D. Social justice is the correct answer. The explanation. Amos chapter 5 verses 11 to 12 and 8 4 to 7 heavily emphasize God's demand for social righteousness, condemning the wealthy for oppressing the poor and corrupting the legal system. Amos conveys God's central demand: let judgment run down as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream. The theme is clear: external religious observance is worthless without internal justice and morality. Question 3. What does Daniel prophesy about Belshazzar's kingdom? A. He will overcome enemies. B. Divided and given to Medes and Persians. C. His descendants will rule forever. D. He will become prosperous. Well done. The answer is B. Divided and given to Medes and Persians. The explanation. Daniel chapter 5 verses 26 to 28 contains the interpretation of the handwriting on the wall. Mean tekel, a parson. Daniel explained that Perez meant, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. This prophecy confirmed God's severe judgment against Belshazzar for his pride and sacrilege. The fulfillment was immediate. That very night the prophecy was executed. Question 4. Who usurped David's throne while David still lived? Think it over. A. Solomon. B. Jonathan. C. Absalom. D. Rehoboam. Superb. The answer is C. Absalom. The explanation. 2 Samuel chapter 15 verses 10 to 12 details Absalom's successful coup. He stole the hearts of the men of Israel and launched a rebellion from Hebron, forcing King David to flee Jerusalem barefoot in shame. Absalom's ambition and charisma led to widespread civil war. The usurpation was tragic, as Absalom was David's own son, beloved despite his treachery and ultimate failure. Question 5. How did Esther save the Jews from Haman's decree? A. Led them in battle. B. Relocated them to safety. C. Persuaded the king to repeal the edict. D. Performed a miracle. Excellent. The answer is C. Persuaded the king to repeal the edict. The explanation. Esther chapter 7 verses 3 to 6 describes Esther's heroic appeal to King Ahasuerus during the banquet. she exposed Haman's plot and begged the king to grant me my life at my petition and my people at my request. Although the original Persian law could not be revoked, the king issued a counter-edict, allowing the Jews to defend themselves, ensuring their victory and survival against the decreed massacre. Question 6. What specific items did Achan secretly take from Jericho, causing Israel's defeat at Ai? Time to think. A. Silver, gold, and iron. B. Babylonian cloak, 200 shekels of silver and wedge of gold. C. Jewels, precious stones, bronze vessels. D. Golden calf and priestly garments. You got it correct. B. Babylonian cloak, 200 shekels of silver, and wedge of gold. The explanation. Joshua chapter 7 verses 20 to 21 records Achan's confession. He coveted and took 3 specific items: a goodly Babylonian garment and 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold of 50 shekels weight. This sin brought divine wrath upon the entire community, causing their initial defeat at Ai, and demonstrating the severity of violating the harem devoted things command. Question 7. What celestial event did Joshua command during battle? A. The sun standing still. B. A meteor shower. C. A solar eclipse. D. A rainbow. Nice work. A. The sun standing still is the right choice. The explanation. Joshua chapter 10 verses 12 to 14 records this unique miracle during the battle against the 5 Amorite kings. Joshua commanded, "Sun, stand you still upon Gibeon, and you, moon, in the valley of Ajalon." God granted this request, supernaturally extending the daylight so Israel could complete the victory. The text affirms that there was no day like that before it or after it, confirming God's partnership. Question 8. What metaphors does Amos use for Israel's failure to uphold justice? Pick from. A. Boiling stew, cup of trembling barren vine. B. Shattered jar, moth-eaten garment, dust. C. Lamb, fig tree and well. D. Sifting, plumb line and ripe fruit. The expected answer is D. Sifting, plumb line and ripe fruit. The explanation. Amos chapter 7 verses 7 to 8 depicts a plumb line, showing Israel's moral crookedness. Amos chapter 8 verses 1 to 2 shows a basket of summer fruit, ripe fruit, signifying Israel was ripe for judgment. Amos chapter 9 verse 9 speaks of sifting the house of Israel among all nations. These distinct images confirm God's imminent and precise action against their hypocrisy and injustice. Question 9. Who interpreted Nebuchadnezzar's forgotten dream? A. Belshazzar. B. Balthazar. C. Daniel. D. Belshazzar. C. Daniel is the accurate choice. The explanation. Daniel chapter 2 verses 24 to 49 recounts that Nebuchadnezzar demanded his wise men not only interpret his dream, but also reveal what the dream was. Daniel alone received this dual mystery through divine revelation. He described the giant statue made of various metals, representing successive world kingdoms, and interpreted its destruction by a miraculous stone, Christ's kingdom. You're doing great so far. If you're enjoying the quiz, hit the like button and subscribe for more Bible quiz content. Share your score in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Let's dive back in. Question 10. Who was Absalom's sister violated by their half-brother Amnon? A. Michal. B. Tamar. C. Bathsheba. D. Jemima. The correct choice is B. Tamar. The explanation. 2 Samuel 13 details the violation of Tamar by Achan, David's oldest son. Tamar was Absalom's full sister and renowned for her beauty. This grievous act of incestuous violence led to brooding resentment. Absalom eventually murdered Achan in revenge 2 years later, leading to Absalom's exile and setting the stage for his rebellion against David. Question 11. What was Esther's relation to Mordecai? A. Her cousin and adoptive father. B. Her uncle. C. Her husband. D. Her biological father. You've got this. A. Her cousin and adoptive father is correct. The explanation. Esther chapter 2 verse 7 clarifies their relationship. Esther, Hadassah, was an orphan whom Mordecai took in as he brought up Hadassah, that is, Esther, his uncle's daughter. Since her parents were deceased, Mordecai served as both her cousin and her father figure, instructing her throughout her time in the palace. Their close spiritual bond was essential to the deliverance of the Jews. Question 12. How many survivors remained in Ai after Joshua's destruction? Possible answers. A. 10. B. 100. C. 1,000. D. None. The valid answer is D. None. The explanation. Joshua chapter 8 verse 25 records the completeness of the conquest. And so it was that all that fell that day, both of men and women, were 12,000, even all the people of Ai. The entire population was utterly destroyed under the command of Joshua. The complete judgment served as a powerful contrast to the earlier failure at Ai, caused by Achan's sin, and demonstrated God's uncompromising holiness. Question 13. What did Balaam's donkey see that caused it to stop and speak? A. A lion blocking the path. B. An angel of the Lord with a sword. C. A pit ahead. D. Water to drink. Brilliant. Option B. An angel of the Lord with a sword is spot on. The explanation. Numbers chapter 22 verses 23 to 31 records the strange encounter between the prophet Balaam and his donkey. The donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way and his sword drawn in his hand. The donkey stopped 3 times, eventually speaking to Balaam, who was blind to the divine presence. This demonstrated that God can use the lowliest of creatures to rebuke the proud and reveal His will. Question 14. To whom should Israel plead for mercy, according to Micah? Think about these. A. To their king. B. To their prophets. C. To their enemies. D. To their God. You're on track. D. To their God is correct. The explanation. Micah chapter 7 verse 9 records the prophet's humble submission to divine judgment. I will bear the indignation of the Lord, because I have sinned against him, until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. The people are advised to acknowledge their sin and turn exclusively to God for forgiveness and vindication. There is no hope in human leaders or foreign alliances. Only God can show mercy and restore them. Question 15. Who set the writer in dark places in Lamentations? A. His enemies. B. His sin. C. The Lord. D. The king. Spot on. The correct option is C. The Lord. The explanation. Lamentations chapter 3 verse 6 attributes the profound national suffering directly to divine action. He has set me in dark places, as they that be dead of old. The writer Jeremiah acknowledges that the terrible judgment, the Babylonian destruction of Jerusalem, was not random or accidental. It was a necessary consequence of God's righteous wrath against their sins. This recognition of divine sovereignty is central to true repentance. You're doing great so far. If you're enjoying the quiz, hit the like button and subscribe for more Bible quiz content. Share your score in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Let's dive back in. Question 16. Which of David's sons was born in Jerusalem, not Hebron? A. Shammua. B. Amon. C. Daniel. D. Absalom. Right on target. The answer is A. Shammua. The explanation. 1 Chronicles chapter 3 verses 1 to 4 lists David's sons born in Hebron, including Amon and Absalom. Verse 5 lists sons born later in Jerusalem, which include Shammua. David ruled in Hebron for 7 years before capturing Jerusalem and establishing it as the capital. The first 4 sons listed as born in Jerusalem were all born after the kingdom was consolidated there. Question 17. What first sign did God give Gideon through his fleece? A. Fleece burned but ground stayed wet. B. Fleece covered in dew, ground remained dry. C. Fleece remained dry, ground was wet. D. Fleece turned crimson. Outstanding. B. Fleece covered in dew, ground remained dry is right. The explanation. Judges chapter 6 verses 36 to 40 details the 2 sequential tests. The first sign Gideon requested was the fleece being saturated with dew, while the surrounding ground remained dry. The second sign was the exact opposite. The fleece was dry while the ground was wet. God patiently granted both signs, overcoming Gideon's deep insecurity and confirming that he would deliver Israel through him. Question 18. What was the content of Nebuchadnezzar's dream that Daniel interpreted? Select 1. A. Statue with different metals for successive kingdoms. B. A tree growing to heavens. C. 7 cows and grain ears. D. A flying scroll with curses. You're crushing it. A statue with different metals for successive kingdoms is right. The explanation. Daniel chapter 2 verses 31 to 35 describes the giant statue with a head of gold, Babylon, chest of silver, Medo-Persia, belly of bronze, Greece, and legs of iron clay, Rome. This dream outlined the entire sequence of future world empires, which would eventually be destroyed by a stone cut out without hands, Christ's eternal kingdom, demonstrating God's sovereign control over history. Question 19. What vow did Jephthah make before battle, and what was the consequence? A. Build a temple, his son became priest. B. Fast 40 days, army perished. C. Offer first person from house, his daughter emerged. D. Give half possessions, wealth taken. You're doing great. C. Offer first person from house, his daughter emerged is correct. The explanation. Judges chapter 11 verses 30 to 39 records Jephthah's rash vow before fighting the Ammonites. He promised to sacrifice whatever comes forth of the doors of my house if God granted him victory. Tragically, his only child, his daughter, came out dancing. Jephthah felt bound by the vow, leading to her lament and eventual consecration, highlighting the danger of making impulsive vows to God. Question 20. Which two women prominently figured in Samson's tragic relationships? Give it a go. A. Michal and Delilah. B. Harlot of Gaza and Michal. C. Woman of Timnath and Abigail. D. Delilah and Woman of Timnath. Keep it up. The right answer is D. Delilah and Woman of Timnath. The explanation. Judges chapter 14 details Samson's marriage to the Philistine woman of Timnath. Judges chapter 16 then details his fatal relationship with Delilah. These two women define the start and end of his public life and his covenant violations, showing his persistent attraction to Philistine women. Although he consorted with a harlot in Gaza, Judges chapter 16 verse 1, the Timnite woman and Delilah form the defining relational tragedy. Question 21. What riddle did Samson pose at his wedding feast? A. What is stronger than a lion? B. What walks on 4 legs than 2? C. Out of eater came food, out of strong came sweetness. D. What breaks but never falls? The correct answer is C. Out of eater came food, out of strong came sweetness. The explanation. Judges chapter 14 verses 12 to 14 records Samson's riddle, which was based on his finding honey in the carcass of a lion he had previously killed. The Philistines, unable to solve it, pressured Samson's wife to reveal the answer. When they finally answered, Samson recognized their treachery, saying, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you had not found out my riddle." Question 22. What sign marked the Shunammite sons' revival by Elisha? A child spoke God's name. B. Child had a mark on forehead. C. Child grasped Elisha's staff. D. Child sneezed 7 times. D. Child sneezed 7 times is the correct answer. The explanation. 2 Kings chapter 4 verses 32 to 35 details the dramatic resuscitation of the boy. After Elisha stretched himself upon the child twice, the child sneezed 7 times and the child opened his eyes. This final, powerful and specific sign demonstrated that the life-giving power was fully restored. The sneezing ritual was a clear physical marker of complete restoration from death, confirming the miracle. Question 23. What did Nabal say that enraged David? A. Refused to acknowledge David as future king. B. Questioned who David was, called him a runaway slave. C. Cursed David's name and lineage. D. Challenged David to single combat. Well done. The answer is B. Questioned who David was, called him a runaway slave. The explanation. 1 Samuel chapter 25 verses 10 to 11 records Nabal's arrogant reply to David's request for provisions. Who is David, and who is the son of Jesse? There be many servants nowadays that break away every man from his master. Nabal's insult dismissed David as a mere runaway slave, a servant who broke away from his master Saul, refusing to recognize David's dignity and inciting his furious rage. You're doing great so far. If you're enjoying the quiz, hit the like button and subscribe for more Bible quiz content. Share your score in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Let's dive back in. Question 24. How did Elijah prove God's power against Baal's prophets? Choose from A. Fire consumed sacrifice, wood, stones, and water. B. Water turned to blood. C. Sun stood still. D. Mountain split in 2. Superb. The answer is A. Fire consumed sacrifice, wood, stones, and water. The explanation. 1 Kings chapter 18 verses 36 to 39 details the definitive contest on Mount Carmel. Elijah soaked the sacrifice and altar with water. When he prayed, the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water. The fire's ability to consume water and stones proved undeniably that Yahweh, not Baal, was the living God. Question 25. What was Naaman's affliction and condition for healing? A. Blind, had to view the ark. B. Cursed, had to sleep in temple. C. Paralyzed, had to climb Mount Sinai. D. Leprous, had to dip 7 times in Jordan. Excellent. The answer is D. Leprous, had to dip 7 times in Jordan. The explanation. 2 Kings chapter 5 verses 1 to 10 identifies Naaman, the Syrian commander, as leprous. Elisha commanded him to go and wash in Jordan 7 times. Naaman initially resisted this humble condition, preferring the grand rivers of Syria, but his eventual obedience resulted in his complete healing. The simple, repeated act of dipping symbolized the necessity of faith and submission to God's specific command. What an amazing journey! How did you score on all 25 questions? Drop your score in the comments below. Thanks for joining us today on Bible Quiz Tube. Subscribe for new Bible quizzes. Stay blessed.